shall we talk? Well, welcome back to another one of my discussions about life and all the things that might come up inside of it. I've had this subject to talk about for a long time, so I thought I'd talk about it today. So basically, I've had such a weird week. I usually write on the Monday so I could just get all of my thoughts into like one place, and then I'm just thinking of like maybe turning that into a book at one point. But then this week I had a bit of a meltdown, so then I went in and I wrote, you know, without it being Monday, and I was like, ugh. But every day that goes by, I just can't help but to admit that the brain is running the place. Because I'm telling you, right, I don't care what anyone says about God, right? I care what I say about God, right? And God is kind. And I know what kindness is because I want to live in that place. I mostly live in that place, right? So then God's not answering me. I'm telling you, and every day it's becoming more and more obvious just to actually have to admit that what I believe to be kind, this thing, is not answering me. And every day it's getting more and more confusing, right? So I just had a bit of a meltdown. But anyway, because of this meltdown, it's really forced me to really just look at the mind. And actually I divided it. Let me go and get that list, actually, 1 second. And I'm back. Okay, so maybe I'll do like a video about this one day. But I wanted to understand myself and what the heck was going on, because who am I arguing with? The only person that's right here with me right now is my mind. And here I am having debates with some type of like negative existence, and then something that's like trying to be positive, and then something in the middle that's just like, right, what are we doing? And it's just like, whoa, what the heck is going on here? And meanwhile, God is not saying hello there, right? So then I'm just like, right, and because I'm realizing more and more, because I'm asking to speak to God, and because God's not answering yet, this brain here, technically, right this moment, is alone. And I'm starting to realize that every moment that happens to me, be it good or bad, is all based on my brain. And this realization is coming so strongly to me because I'm asking to speak to God, right? To literally my face saying, Nayna, the brain is in charge, and that's that, right? So then, because I'm like being forced to see this, right, and admit it, right, I decided to just sit there and go, okay, so, you know, what are all these things arguing? And so then I started to realize all the different parts of me, right? So then, first of all, there's the thoughts, right, where they just appear. Like, I don't ask for them, and they're always relatable, so which means I have this machine that just gives me thoughts, right? And these thoughts are like, they're not the person who's speaking now, because the person who's speaking now is trying to form things, right, as I go. But the thoughts are not trying to form anything. They're just information that gets put in, right? But those information is from me because I recall them, I know them, I have a relationship with them, but I don't ask for them anyway. So then I have the thoughts, and then I have the person that's constantly trying to talk, right? The talker, the experiencer, the feeler, the one who seems to be moving everything forward. And then I was like, but then there's this other thing to me where I'm just a watcher, where I'm just like none of those things, but here I am watching it. It's just like this watcher thing, right? Then there's that. But then I started to realize that there's this other side of me that's so automatic and silent, but it grabs the moment, and it's the opinion. And there's this like built-in opinion that just takes over. So for example, if somebody's rude to me, I've formed this opinion that people can't be rude to me, and if they are, I'm gonna get angry, and then it just takes over because I've taught myself that, and then I have to deal with that side of me too, right? So anyway, so I started to break all of this down, and I got a list, and I wrote here that, so then there's a level of what they call subconscious, which is like the ideas and the conclusions, and then just below that will be the opinions. So it's like this thing that you feed, and it just stores itself there, and it gives itself to you, but it's all under your control. This is the point I'm making. This is all under your control, and you've stored a bunch of stuff there, right? And then it just feeds you, it gives you ideas, which I'm assuming that's where the thoughts come from, and conclusions to life, and the opinions, right? And then you have the resolver, which is the person that's speaking right now, which is the person who experiences life in terms of like feelings and information and processing and what do I do, right? And then the observer, which is, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is there this side to me that's just the watcher? Because I can feel it, because I don't need to be none of those things if I just stop, right? I can feel it. But that place doesn't give me answers. It's just there. So then I'm trying to find, obviously, another level where it's just trying to understand all of it, right? Anyway, I thought I'd just add that into there because I wanted to talk about the best self, yeah? And for me, I made a point a while back before all of this, that the best self, you have to be connected to your higher self, right? But the problem with that is that in this world right now, we don't have access to any higher self or any God or anything like that. So you're almost having to like live blindly, and I'm so sick of living blindly that I'm just trying to find the solutions to the what we have here now, right? So I'm a bit comprehensive, trying to like match the heaven sides to this like best self. But having said that, let's just get into the subject, because that was a long intro. So the reason why this is like a big passion of mine, so I have this like project that I work on, that I have an idea that I want to do. I want to like visit places like schools or whatever, places where loads of people gather, and I want to do a presentation. This is called Project Inspiration, and at first the presentation was solely about changing the world. I want to go into these places, I want to proper put everything down and talk about it, and I want to sing and just make it like a proper educational positive thing about how do we change the world and how But then that started, because I started then suffering with mental health a lot, I started to realize obviously the problem with the world is mental health. So then I was like, maybe I could add that into Project Inspiration, right, to try and talk about Project Inspiration. And then I started finding all these tools that helped me to move forward, right? So then I started noting these tools that I'll come across, and finding your best self is a tool that I came across. So then I put that into Project Inspiration as well, right? So that's why it's a big passion of mine to just even be speaking about this, right? I've spoken about best self before, but let me just round it up again of what the best self means, right? And how I present it in my presentation, right? You have a package. You are a package, right? And either that package is nourished and celebrated and looked after, or it's not, and it has like maybe a dark cloud over it, and it's just nothing's happening with it, right? And finding your best self is about taking your package and looking at it, right? And actually figuring out that you have something to celebrate. Everybody does, you know. So then you form this package of yourself, and it's called a best self. So from skills, what you're good at. And actually we could all try to do that just by being told, right? Oh, I should work on my best self. Yes, I should, right? I'm seeing, this clear underlining thing of why people find it hard to even look at it that way, right? And it's because we are not taught about the power that we are. We are a brain that has all of these functions, and these functions create your experience, right? So whatever, and when I say experience, I mean your life. And when you look back at your story, all of that is an experience, right? So your brain creates your life. And we're not taught that, obviously, because I wasn't taught that in school. I don't think you were taught that in school. My son is not being taught that in school. What we are taught is that we are a product of nature, and we're here by whatever reason, but we're just experiencing either nature's story or God's story, and we're just getting by, right? But the reality is that the brain is in charge of this experience, and it's not, and this is currently, right? And I don't know why it's happening like this, but this is currently as it stands, right? It's that the brain is in charge of everything that you do and say and experience. I have to add that not only are you doing that, but you're doing that along with everybody else, because everybody else is also doing that, which is the one thing I cannot ignore that a lot of people don't really talk about, right? Because they always talk about the self, but we have to accept that everybody else is doing that, and they're here right now with me. Anyway, so then with that being said, you don't really get taught to know your power, and to know that actually, wait a minute, if I was to create my best self, I actually do have the power to do that. Because I was even noticing when I was sitting there, I'd moved on with a thought, right? And then I'm sitting at my computer, and then suddenly the thought comes back. And what I would usually do is just allow it to come back and start thinking about it again, right? Because it came back, and it's like, oh yeah, you come back, and now I'm thinking about it. But because I had that breakdown, and I was like, oh, the brain is so in charge, and I was like, hold on, wait a minute, the brain is actually in charge. It's just like the coin fell, and it was like, I see the thought come in, why do I then continue? So then and sometimes you really don't even, you forget that you're in charge. So then you start experiencing life as if you're not in charge again. But then when you remember, you're like, well, hold on. And it's such a weird process, and I, again, don't know why it's happening. But the point is that we're not taught, and looking at your best self could be much easier if you were aware of the power that you are. We all have access to create our best selves. And actually, we have this thing. I have to pause there yet to find the thing. I guess it's the empty space in which we turn to look for something new. And when we're all distracted with like all of these other things that we're not even aware that we're distracted, we're just living life, right? We're not paying attention to that big empty space. And there is this big empty space, and for me, I've connected that big empty space with like the feeling of wonder, the feeling of excitement of like, oh, what can I do? And I know we're not taught this again in education and in schools and in university, but here we are, we have this option of this like blank space in our minds to create whatever, just gotta do it. And what I'm finding is that I have absolute control, though it may be tricky and forgetful, I have absolute control over what I do with all of this. All these subconscious thoughts, I've got all of these blank spaces, I've got all of these opinions, all of these tools that I come across of the best self. So now what do I do with all of that? And I am in absolute control, even though I'm forgetful of that and it can get tricky. So I'm gonna leave you with a picture of your best self to round up this video, and hopefully, yeah, I just had to pause there because I was like, how can I tell somebody else what the picture of their best self is? That's not ever gonna happen, is it? I mean, unless obviously we find God, and then that will happen. So I'm gonna tell you a picture of my best self, and then hopefully then you could make a list of your best self and know that you're in charge of becoming that. You have the tools to become that built inside of you, which is literally the empty space, and your control to do it, because you've got obviously control the brain to go in that direction. Otherwise the brain is going to go to all these other taught directions. So here it is, my best self. Oh god, I should have made a list. I didn't make a list for this part. Okay, so my best self, right, definitely has more in it than about skills and stuff, right? So it's more about characteristics and ideas as well as skills. So when I read about Jesus, I get this great feeling of like, isn't that beautiful? When I read about angels, I get the same feeling of like, isn't that beautiful? And from a very long time, I was like, that is my role model. Looking up to that, that's what I want my characteristics to be like. So I want to be kind, I want to be giving, I want to be understanding, I want to be knowledgeable, I want to be helpful, I want to be able, you know, when somebody can actually fix the problem and they've got all the tools to do it and they do it, so then helpful, right? Yeah, so then that's how I see my best self to be, that I'm able to do that, right? And I have one little flaw that gets in the way of that, and at this point I don't even want to call it a flaw, because without it I would not be here today, right? Which is anger. I don't know how to connect anger to Jesus or to angels without making up stories that maybe they too had to walk that path. But anger is something that I'm not proud of, and that's the only thing that stands in the way of like my character, my best self. And then the skills, I guess, that I'm able to just be really good at things. I want to be good at them, and I want to understand them, and I want to be of like service to others, so then I'm well placed for the job. So I guess I just want to be good at things. I want to be helpful. It feels weird because I'm saying all of this stuff and it's not really painting my best picture, because the best picture is so personal in terms of like your goals and your achievements and what you want to do, right? So then I'm not really talking about that, am I? I'm literally painting a picture of what, yeah, I've done something different here. I get answers. You cheeky. He's so cheeky. I saw him, my cat, jump in the wall, went into the primary school, found a place, little shed, and he pooed there, and then he ran away as if he'd done a crime. He runs and he does this like gallop. He did that after he left the crime scene. And I don't know what to do. So he has a cheek to be meowing right now at me. Did you hear him again? Anyway, so yes, best self. I guess I want to be successful at finding God, successful at helping people, successful at feeling peaceful, successful at finding heaven, and then just be good at things, you know? Like be good at things that I want to be good at, like writing and speaking and computer stuff and visiting other universes. And then maybe finding out about love and what that's supposed to be like, because we're definitely like all connected as humans, and there's definitely like something going on between two people, like when they fall in love, and I think it's something that we need to explore and understand better. So I definitely would like to understand that and experience something that's like more magical than what I've experienced so far. Actually, let me rephrase that. Something that's absolutely magical and beautiful that I have not experienced so far. Anyway, I'm gonna leave you there because I'm confusing myself here, because I'm just like, I'm not sure if I'm painting a best self picture or if I'm just waffling about who I want to be, which is the best self picture, isn't it? So I guess I am doing it, but I'm doing it in a very messy way because usually I'm about lists. Have a wonderful evening wherever you are, and I shall see you next time. Take care of yourself, and yeah, bye.